Hi guys, Charles here. I would like to go through the book of Revelation with you. This is my interpretation, and you'll hear things that you've never heard before, and you'll hear things that you have heard before. So the best place to start is at the beginning, chapter 1 in the book of Revelation. Now here's a key to the book of Revelation to start with. Everything in the rest of the Bible fits into Revelation. It does not fit the other way around. Try to fit everything into Daniel, Zechariah, and stuff like that. Revelation is the key. So that's where everything should fit. It should fit in order. And mostly people have it way out of order, and this is where the order comes. This is why he gave us this book. The first chapter is about Jesus. Jesus said he is coming again. He says every eye will see him when he comes. That's a thought on the rapture. That's a different story for right now. But he says when he returns, everybody will see him, every eye. His feet of brass, he has hair, is like wool that is white. Everybody thinks, oh, wool, it's white. Plus, it says his head is white. So imagine that. Who does that fit? White head, white hair, white wool. It fits all of us. Now, don't go there with, color. It's all of us. Now, and it's all of this is about him. And he walks between the candlesticks. Now, I'm going to share this with you. When you walk into the temple, in the old days, the tabernacle, on one side is the 12 loaves of bread, which represents the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, on the other side, everybody assumes is the Jewish menorah. It's 7 candlesticks. Right now, Jesus in the first chapter is walking through the 7 candlesticks. The 7 candlesticks are the 7 churches. The 7 churches are scattered around the world today. Now, the 7 churches went underground. They were from Messianic or from Jewish. They were in the synagogues, and they morphed into churches around the world as we see them. So Jesus walked through the candlesticks. So the 7 candlesticks represents the 7 churches, which are Gentiles, which are around the world today. Now, so the Gentiles have always been in the temple of God. The menorah represents the Gentiles, and the 12 loaves represents the 12 tribes of Israel. Then you had your incense table and the Ark of Covenant that's behind the curtain. So, all right. Now we'll go to chapter 2, and chapter 2 is of the churches. Chapter 2 and 3 of the 7 churches. The 7 churches are not eras. They are 7 churches. They went underground, they appeared, and they are like they are today. And if you notice, all the 7 churches, he does not argue one bit with them about who believes in me. Jesus Christ is the Son of God. All 7 churches believe this. Look around the world. All the churches that are Christian believes that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. They have a lot of stuff messed up. Look at the Jehovah's Witnesses. They do believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, but how he came about is a little fishy with the Jehovah. But they have other things too that are truth. All the churches that are in the world today have some form of truth to them. And that's what he did. He hid a little bit of himself in all these churches. Now, in the end times, he's going to bring all these churches back together and put them all on the same page. He has 7 separate ones for some reason. They could be ambassadors from Israel to the rest of the world. 7 churches on the other continents, and they could be used like in embassies, because he is ruling for 1,000 years out of Israel. So he has to have a connection with the rest of them. How all that works, I don't know, but that's a possibility. Something to think about. But the Gentiles have always been in the temple. The Jews, the Israelis, they kind of don't like that if you say that, but I believe it's true. So the first chapter, 2nd and 3rd, is about the churches. And he says, I will take my candlestick from you, because you allowed that harlot, the Jezebel, to preach and teach, and all this other, and all the other churches are doing these bad things. He don't say you're not following me, but you're doing the wrong thing. So if he took the candlestick out of an era, wouldn't the whole errors fall when they all fall upon each other. You can make them fit any way you want if they're errors. You can make this one fit here, this one fit there, and if it's true, this last church is the Laodiceans. And if they're going to be around the world giving the word of God, how can they be Laodiceans? How can they be the worst of the worst? They're supposed to be the best of the best because his word's going out and his Holy Spirit being poured out on all flesh and we're all so great. How can you be a Laodicean? If you're going to speak errors, speak with what it is. You're Laodiceans then if you teach that. You're not. There's 7 churches around the world. There's 7 distinctive churches on this earth today. Anabaptist. You have the Catholics. Now, they're messed up in a lot of ways, but they do believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. All the other churches, Orthodox, the Coptic Christians that were persecuted in Egypt, some of the oldest that we know of. And some of them trace their roots really far back. But there's 7 distinctive ones, and everybody else had branched off of them. So I say they went hiding. They went underground because they were killing them and persecuting them. And they all popped up with the same message that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. And they're still fighting today over baptism. They were fighting back then about baptism. They were fighting about all these other things. Circumcision. Should you keep the law? Should you keep the Sabbath? Should you keep this? Should you do that? Should you do this? And that's what they're in trouble for because they don't keep and do like they're supposed to be. It's not about believing in him. That is the gospel. But there's more to it than that. It's our everyday lives of how we live. So, that's Revelation 1, 2, and 3. So I'm just going to go over synopsis. I'm going to try not to talk about what other people believe unless it needs to be said for you to understand where I'm coming from. Because there's a lot of misconceptions, I believe, that is going on in all of this. So 1, 2, 3, we're going to chapter 4. And he saw the doors in heaven. John walked through the doors of heaven. And when he walked through doors. That means if there's a door, there's a wall. He keeps people out that he don't want in there. When he walked in, he saw 4 beasts. The 4 beasts are the cherubim. So the beasts are cherubims later on to be called beasts. But he's talking about the 4 cherubims with their full of eyes and the face of a man, the face of an ox, and so on. And when he walked through the doors, he didn't say, oh, my grandma, or other people that he knew that died, like the apostles that died. He said, hey, look, there's Peter, there's whoever, because they were dead by the time he did this. He didn't recognize anybody. The place wasn't full of people. The only people were the people under the altar, but they were under the altar, not jumping up and down, praising God and stuff. So where's them people at? Them people that are under the altar came through the Great Tribulation. And we'll get to how that is. He saw 24 elders, and that represented the tribes of Israel, because Israel had 2 elders per tribe, which comes to 24. You have the 4 beasts, which are the movers and the shakers of the world. They're the ones that run the world, control the world. They're the movers and shakers. They're the power, the energy. They're the ones that make things happen. And our prayers and all go through them. Everything goes through them. Our thoughts are totally recording everything. We have a little recorder. They're recording the world. Okay? So they're the beasts and they're up there and they do their job. And there's other angels too, Gabriel, Michael, and others have jobs to do. And he's seen the lamb that was slain. Now, the slain lamb was meant to be worshipped because of how good he did. And the Father handed him the book of Revelation. The 12 seals were on this, or the 7 seals were on this book that he gave to his son. He said the son sit beside the Father. And he handed him this book. Now, he opened the book. And so there's the 4 horsemen, and then there's the other 3 seals, which makes 7. And the candlesticks were up there too, in heaven, a representative of the Gentiles that were in heaven. There were 7 lamps, and he walked through the lamps and the creatures, and they go, holy, holy is God, and you go through all this stuff. This is what heaven looks like. But they could not look on the Father because the Father was unlookable. He had to explain him as gemstones, of the most precious thing possible, but he couldn't see the Father. He just seen a representation of the Father. So nobody's ever seen the Father, but we have seen Jesus. Our predecessors have. Not us yet. And he said, every eye will see him. Then he gave him the seat in the right hand with strong angels proclaiming with a loud voice, who was able to open it, and Jesus was, and he opened it. Now, here's the thing. There are 7 seals, and there's 7 trumpets, all in a row. The first 7 seals are pretty vague. You have the first seal, which is the white horse. Then you have, whichever order they're in, the white horse went out to conquer, which is war. Then the fiery color, red, and he slaughtered man to man, and the black horse. And then the fourth horse was green. It was light green, a pale horse. And it was given all these 4 horses over the 4th part of the earth. So let's start with the 4 horsemen right here. Now, the 4 horsemen, I believe, has opened up from the beginning. AD 70, was it 70? When Rome sacked Jerusalem. They tore down the temple. They threw the stones so they could get all the gold that was hidden between the rocks. And Jesus said that too. The Olivet discord that Jesus says in Matthew 24 goes hand in hand with this. And this is why I believe it was open then. He said the temple will be thrown down. There'll be wars and rumors of wars and pestilence and famines over the 4th of the earth. And it says it right here. Now, if you're looking for that to happen, it's going to be a mess because there's 7 more trumpets to sound, which are worse than what this is really bad. But if you put it in the order of it opened, and it's been happening, everything these 4 horsemen represent has been happening since day 1, since Jesus opened them back in the day. There's been wars, they've been rumors of wars, they've been pestilence, famine over 4th of the earth. Look, it's been a 4th of the earth for famine. Africa's in trouble. In other parts of the world right now, Ukraine. I can name war after war that's happened. Pestilence that has happened time and time again. We're talking millions and millions and millions of people that have died from these 4. And plus, in the Old Testament, it speaks of the 4 horsemen that God uses to take Israel out of the land because they're not doing it right. They're not obeying him. They're not keeping the Shemitah and the Sabbaths, and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, I'm going to step into Daniel. You know the statue. The first statue, the head of gold, Nebuchadnezzar. Now, was Israel allowed to stay in their homeland during the head of gold? No. The arms of silver. Was Israel allowed to stay in their homeland during the arms of silver? No. Was Israel allowed to stay in the land of Israel with the legs and thighs of brass? No. So, now we're down to Rome. Kick them out. That's part of the legs, the first part of the thighs. They were not allowed to stay in their land. They kicked them out. They got scattered all over the land. Now they are brought back. And now the feet and toes are coming back again against Israel. It is the Gog and Magog war. You think God's going to let them stay in? And all the other times he didn't in the same statue. But this is the end time. So does he let them stay in when he comes back? So that's another question. That's a question to think about. I thought I would throw that out there to you. Now, that's the first 4 horsemen that has been happening. And they are separated. They are not woes. If you continue through reading, the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th seal is called woes. They are separated from the first 4. Now, the first 4, if you look logically, has happened from our point in time right now. Look back. A third of the water's polluted. A third of the sea's polluted. Our drinking water's messed up. And all the plagues and all that. You can write them down. Start writing all the plagues and all the people that's died. Black plague, bubonic plague, the wars. Ukraine war right now, World War II, or all these wars that are happening, they cannot be ignored. They are part of our life and part of what happened, and Israel was kicked out of Israel and scattered around the world. And that's what the four horsemen do. That's their job. Now, if you look, it talks about the four horsemen, and then it goes on to the fourth is the living creatures, and all right, and the fifth, and this underneath the altar. Okay, where are we at on this? Okay, I'm just jumping around and talking about it. Now, the first seven seals are mentioned, and then the seven trumpets right after that. I believe the seven trumpets overlay the seven seals. It's explained the seven seals, given short examples, and then it's spoken of again because it separates them and calls the three woes, the fifth, sixth, and seventh. So the next ones have to be overlaid on the seals because the fifth, sixth, and seventh seal are woes, and the fifth, sixth, and seventh trumpets are woes. So them fit over top each other. What he's doing, he's giving you a better explanation of these. So the first four of the seals. All right, let's see where I'm at. The seventh seal on chapter 8. And that's the last time, and it's kind of vague how it runs into the first trumpet. And when it runs into the first trumpet, the one blew the trumpet, and hail and was mingled with blood, and it was hurled to the earth, and a third of the grass was burnt up, and a third of the earth was burnt up, and a third of the trees, and the green vegetation. Now, all that since then will fit with, we have destroyed our rainforests, we have destroyed, look at them, they don't even allow the farmers, they throw stuff in the sea. This is stuff that we have done to ourselves. The first four is what's happening to us. And then the ships were wrecked, and a third angel blew his trumpet, and the star burning like a lamp fell from heaven and fell on a third of the rivers and the springs of the water, and the name of the star is Wormwood. Well, I've done these in previous videos, but I'm jumping around trying to give you an overview. Wormwood is Chernobyl. It is another word for Chernobyl. Chernobyl's name translated is wormwood. Chernobyl messed up the water supply of the world, let alone all the nuclear stuff we have done to ourselves. We have polluted our waters with this nuclear stuff. Wormwood flew up in the sky, came back down, the graphite, when the top of it blew off, and it was going into our groundwater. It came very close to destroying, who knows what could happen. They were able to stop it from going into the main water, but it's still going into the water because we're polluted. The first four trumpets fits what we're doing to ourselves. And if you add all this up, what's going to happen later, we could not survive. So I'm saying, look into all this. The fourth angel blew, and a third part of the sun was struck, and a third part of the moon, and a third of the stars. Now, look in the Old Testament. Who is called sun, moon, and stars? These are all put in order. The sun's going to hit us. The moon's going to hit us. The star's going to hit us. Meteor's going to hit us. And everybody goes on and on about all these different terrestrial bodies that's going to pound on this earth. Then we're in trouble. What this represents is Israel. It represents Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Then Joseph had a dream about the moon and the stars all bowing to him and his brothers, his 11 brothers. So Israel, during the time of Jesus' day till now, had been persecuted. This is speaking of the persecution of the Israel, along with this other garbage that's going on. So he is putting stuff in here that has been happening, we're doing to ourselves, to show it is not the blood moons. That's just, and the eclipse. It's like, no. All these signs everybody's looking for that's coming out of the sky to hit the earth, that's not going to happen. This is talking about what has happened to us. And now the Jews are being persecuted right now. And later on it's going to talk about the third is killed by sword, third is killed by captivity, and a third is saved. So, I mean, if another third of the world here and a third of the world there, and all this nuclear and a meteor hits, and we wouldn't be talking to each other, you wouldn't even see the witnesses on the earth in Jerusalem preaching. They wouldn't be able to preach to the world because they can't go all over the place. So it don't make sense unless it's in perspective. This is stuff that's happening that we've done to ourselves. Now, there is bad things coming called the tribulation, and we're going to find out where the tribulation comes in on there. So, all right, we're on chapter 9. The fifth seal blew his trumpet, and he saw a star that had fallen from heaven to the earth. And a key to the shaft was given him, and the abyss and the smoke ascended. Okay, this is the fifth seal. The fifth seal, I believe, is happening as we're talking, and the sixth seal is happening. I believe. Now, check this out. The 9th chapter of the book of Revelation is talking about missiles. Everything that it talks in the fifth seal from chapter 9 up until half of it till it goes into the sixth seal, women's hair. When a missile takes off in the desert, it has flume that makes women's hair. When it goes to strike from land to Israel, it looks like a scorpion's tail, and Israel shoots it out of the sky. The lion's mouth, it does not say the lion, it says the lion's mouth. You take the lion's tooth and take it out and look at it. They're all in order, and they look like missiles. Turn them over, see the pointy spot, turn them over. The bottoms, they look like missiles, all in ray, like horses to battle. Now, take one of the missiles, break it in half, look inside, you'll see the innards, the electronics, the explosives, and the wiring is protected by a breastplate of iron that is covering the outside. And the faces of men on the missiles, they're putting holograms of martyrs on these missiles. They have brigades of missiles that is given in praise to the people that have been martyred blowing up Israelis. Their faces is on there. They have portraits on there. That's the faces of men. So I think John saw and looked and seen what was happening in our time, and he related it to things in his time, like chariots running past. The loudest noise he's ever heard, the horses running through with the chariots. They sounded like chariots going to battle. They're lined up like horsemen. The missiles are all lined up in them boxes and just lined up ready to go. So the Golden Crown, if you look at their Iran's supersonic missiles, they are tops are gold. Now, they wish they were dead. That one there, when these missiles start flying, and Hezbollah and Iran has not yet opened up their silos. All this is going on God's timeline. When all this opens up and starts firing onto Israel, they're going into their shelters. They are going to wish they were dead from the torment of these missiles falling on them, like World War II. They said, I wish I was dead from the bombs that were being dropped on us. They were hiding in the basements. They came out wishing they were dead. It was so horrific. This makes sense. It all has to fit, or none of it fits. And show where it don't fit. If it don't fit to you, then okay. But to me, it all fits. They wish they were dead. They can't just start stabbing themselves. Oh, I can't die. Blood squirting out my heart. I got a piece of metal here and it won't go through my skin. It don't make no sense. Demons running around biting people. What's that good is that going to do? This book is a book about Israel. Now, Israel isn't doing it right. Read Luke chapter 21. It talks about how bad Israel is going to be in the end times. How bad it's going to happen to them. The war, and I really don't, what's going to happen to their women and them and everything is just horrendous. That is Jacob's tribulation. I'm going to separate the two right here now. The first four seals is what's been happening. The fifth seal and sixth seal is what's going to happen to Israel. And I'm going to show you about Babylon and the sickles, how this fits in with that. The rest of the world, believe it or not, peace is coming. It's not going to be all this destruction like people's trying to tell you like it's going to happen. The sky's falling and the world's going to burn. The rest of the world is going to become peaceful. His Holy Spirit, God's Holy Spirit, is going to be poured out upon all flesh. I think that it's going to be poured out during Pentecost. We'll see. It's coming up. And that's where I would think he would pour it out, because that's when he poured it out the first time. He says, I'm going to pour out my Holy Spirit upon all people. He's going to pour it upon all flesh. The world is going to see. The gospel is going to preach to all the world as a witness. It's not happening right now. They're saying, we're in every country in the world, which they are right now, the Christians, but is India thriving right now on Christ? Pakistan, Russia, China, Brazil, Venezuela. I'm telling you that the rest of the world is going to turn to peace. The tribulation is going to be the Middle East, the Ezekiel 38-39 war that is coming against Israel. That is chapter 5, or seal 5, and seal 6. Now, here's why I say this is because he's coming back. Jesus is coming back. He's going to rule this earth for 1,000 years. Now, he wants his earth in good shape when he returns. Does he want he could just wave his magic wand and say, poof, it's all fine. But he's coming back to do his next job, which is to get the earth ready for the Father to come out of heaven and get us ready so that we can receive the Father and him us, and we become spiritual beings. That's the whole point of all this. So he says himself, I am coming back before you guys destroy each other. I'm coming back before you do something that's irreparable harm to this earth. He is coming back before we destroy ourselves. So right now we can destroy ourselves. So he's going to come back before then. He's not going to take everybody up and the whole world burns. And it says 1/3 of the leaves are burnt. And this is in number 5, 6, and 5 and 6. As you read later in the trumpets, it's referring to Israel. It's referring to that spot in the Middle East, which is the apple of God's eye. Right there is where the tribulation is going to happen. Because, think of this, it says the Battle of Armageddon. The Battle of Armageddon is a little place in Israel. That's where the war is going to be. Gog and Magog, where's the war going to be? Against Israel. The rest of the world is going to turn against the ones that are going to destroy Israel and take them over. I say that because Jesus says, I'm coming back on the 7th trump. He says this, read it. He says, on the 7th trump, I'm coming back. The reason of the 7th trump is the 7th seal. Now there's 7 vials that is after the 7th. Read them. There's 7 of them, and it's on the seat of the beast, which is in Jerusalem. The beast takes over Jerusalem, and that's where he puts the darkness. Look where he says he puts it at. Because he is taking and kicking the people out of the land of Israel that they have taken over from Israelis, and Jesus is taking it back. And that is the Battle of Armageddon. That is when the 3 frogs come out of the mouth of the false prophets, the beast, and the Antichrist. There's 3 of them. Now, frogs come out, and what do the frogs do? The frogs represent the people that is going to go around the world to other nations. The Antichrist controlled the world, and everybody couldn't buy or sell unless they had his mark. Why would he be asking for them to come and help him? They would be one. They would be one ruler of the world. Everybody's thinking of one world ruling power. No, right there shows that these 3 people, with whatever envoy they have, is going to go around the world saying, help us, help us, help us. There is something at Armageddon that we need to destroy. They say what it is. Jesus. He comes to Armageddon to get his people that is waiting for him there to repopulate Israel and rule for 1,000 years. The rest of the world is going to know these people are bad. They're going to start doing the right thing. The rest of the world is going to do the right thing. It's going to turn to peace. It's not all this world-ending destruction like all these people are saying. It is peace. But the Middle East is destruction, because it says 1/3 will die by the sword, a third will die in captivity, and a third will be hidden. It's talking about Israel. It's talking about them. A third's going to hide, be able to hide. Now, okay, let's see where then we have here is the seventh angel. And just read through it, see how all this fits. Now, chapter 11, verse 1, 2, and 3. And 1 and 2. Now, it talks about measuring the temple. And it is, in the Old Testament, it spoke about measuring, getting a reed, and measuring. It's talking about measuring the people of Israel. This is to measure them. Because outside the court is Gentiles. They're measuring the Israelis. He's going to judge them. Whether they're taking care of the orphans, whether they are, this is the big one now, and before he hits them with the fifth and sixth seal, he measures them, and they're not doing so good. The pictures of over in Israel when they were invaded on October 7th by Hamas shows the Buddha, the other religions of the world. They were praising and honoring. Israel was honoring all these other world religions. That's what that party was. It wasn't just a party of, oh, let's feel good, I'll be happy. It was, but it was for all these other religions. They have had for over 55 years the temple of God. Have they built a temple? The Temple Mount? Have they built a temple on that Temple Mount? No, they haven't. They have allowed Jordan to rule God's holy Temple Mount. They have not built him a temple. Now you think, okay, God's going to say, okay, now you can go ahead and build the temple. No, he's not going to let that happen, I don't think. That is not, that to satisfy this scripture, a temple does not have to be built. But the Antichrist does have to pollute the Temple Mount. And he's already polluting it with the Alaska Mosque, the Dome of the Rock. They are polluted. Christians cannot pray up there. You cannot wear a cross up there. You cannot bring a Bible up there. The Jews cannot go up there and pray. The Israelis can't. They can't go up there and pray and worship God, or they go to jail. They think about that. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They are polluting the land. So them last 10 toes is going to win. Israel needs to repent, and if they don't repent of what they're doing, they think they set a widow and they cannot be harmed, they cannot be hurt, they think they're all powerful over there. Oh, God's going to save us, they think, because they have God on their side and all. I don't think he's going to help them this time. I think they're on their own, and I don't believe they can handle the onslaught that happens to them. Now, that's a lot to say, and I really don't like to say that, but I believe that's what's going to happen. So, Jesus can return and knock them in the head, which will be the Muslims that are going Gog and Magog. There's 3 different wars. Gog, Magog, there's Armageddon, and then there's the war after the 1,000 years. There's 3 separate wars. The stone that comes out of the sky, made without human hands, is a giant chunk of ice. Hailstones. The 7th vial of the 7th seal is hailstones. He sends the first 6 on them and messes them up. The beast and all them guys, it's messing them up just like in Moses' days. And they're going to have to know they have to go do something. And then when they attack them, that is God's weapon of choice, which is hailstones coming out of the sky. And he is going to destroy those that have destroyed Israel, that has taken them over. Now, I'll talk about the witnesses maybe in a little bit. But, okay, you read on through, it says the second woe is past and the third woe. And then the 12th chapter is talking, well, the 12th chapter, let's not get into that yet. But And let's get into where it talks about Babylon. Now, go on through, you can read it. He talks about how he has loved them. They've killed the prophets. He feels sorrowful. Babylon, if you read, has been destroyed twice. Why twice? The first time is Israel. If they fit, he calls them Babylon because how bad they're doing. They're acting just like Babylon. They aren't taking care of the widows and the fine linen. He calls them a harlot. Who is God's harlot? Of all people is Israel. They've been since day one. He called them their bride. That is his bride, and they're playing the harlot. They are right now exporting massive amounts of food, material, electronics, new age, new AI, all kinds of, everybody wants Israelis technology. It's some of the best in the world. And they're going to be able to stand back and look and see it burn. That is Israel, where they are conquered by the Muslims. Now, when the Muslims conquer Israel, that's first Babylon going under. He says now it has become demons and owls and horrendous devils and wicked things. It has now become big Babylon. Israel's gone. 1912, the caliphate ended. They've had it for 1,000 years plus. The Muslims have controlled the Middle East. That is who was dead, and now it's coming alive. They have joined forces. They have come together against Israel. They now have a 200 million man army ready to go into Israel. Think about 50,000 men on motorcycles and another 50,000 sitting behind them with rockets and charging in like they did on October 7th. Israel cannot withstand this onslaught unless it's a magical thing from God that saves them. But I think he's not this time. Read Luke chapter 21. He doesn't save them this time. That's why we have the 144,000. He knows who they are. He will put a mark on their forehead, and he will show which tribe they're from. He promised Abraham in a covenant. You can go back and look at the covenant in the Old Testament. Israel is still viable today, and it's going to be in 1,000 years. He put a mark on their forehead to show what tribe they're from, and that is in the last days. He says, I'm going to put a mark on them. Now, we can look and see the mark and say, okay, you're from the tribe of Reuben. This is your property. You're a Levite. You're going to be in the temple. Then he has the other ones. They're the ones that's going to be sitting on Armageddon, waiting to come in to God to get them, Jesus, and take them into Jerusalem, and that is his bridegroom. Oh, it's not the church. It is his bridegroom. Who has been his wife this whole time? It has not changed. It's Israel. He made a promise, and he promised them. This is who it is. He does not break his promises. Well, they didn't do right, so God took it. No, he didn't. He took them out of the land because they're not doing it right, and he's going to do it again, but he's bringing them back because he says they're doing it right now. The 144,000 are doing it right. They know all about it. They're waiting there for him to return. He messes all the Muslims up. Second Babylon. Look how much he hates the second Babylon. And he destroys them. And look how he gives chapter of how bad they are. That second Babylon, that is the second Babylon, is the ones that take over Israel. He's using Babylon on Israel because how bad they're doing. But he talks about how much he loves them. And it's in Jerusalem, and it says so. If you keep reading, it talks about how it's in Jerusalem, and this is where all this is at. All this right now in the world is ramping up to be the 5th and 6th seal, which is the Gog and Magog war, which is going to be against Israel. Armageddon is going to be God's war when he returns, because he said, I'm going to save my people. This is the people he's saving. He's not saving the ones that's in there right now, except a third is going to be able to hide and join them. And that's the ones that are under the altar. The ones under the altar in heaven, it still could be the people from Jesus's time. It could be his disciples. It could be all through, because that could be considered a tribulation that we're going through right now. But the great tribulation is Babylon. Now look at the sickles. It has the one sickle that he uses. That's small, and he is sorrowful. That's the first angel comes out with the sickle and strikes the earth. That is first Israel, right there. Gog and Magog war when they conquer them. The second sickle is the Babylon, the big Babylon, when he strikes the sickle. It's going to be a furlong of blood of a horse's bridle. In other words, it's an awful lot of blood. It's going to go from Armageddon all the way to Jerusalem. It's so bad. In Japheth, the Valley of Japheth and stuff, it's going to be so much blood it's talking about. And then you have your 144 that's sitting, waiting to come in, and Jesus will land them. Mount of Olives will break open, and that's what he rules and reigns for 1,000 years. Now, it says, if they do not, talking about other nations, which the Antichrist was talking about other nations also, it's not a world ruling power. He has to go ask them, help us, please help us. If he was in charge and they were worshiping him, then they would do what he says. But he has to ask them. They're like, no, yeah, right. You think I'm going to go do that? So he's on his own, and that's why Babylon gets messed up, which is the old caliphate, which is Babylon. Now, if you look at Babylon originally, there was a small part of the Middle East that was conquered. The next one, the silver arms, a massive more amount of that land was taken, including Babylon. The third part, which is the legs and brass, and was a bigger. It included Babylon. It was way big. Now look at the caliphate. Look it up. Look, we got Google. Look up the caliphate. It was humongous. It took even into Africa. It took even into the whole Middle East, up into Babylon, up north. It was massive amounts of land that Babylon controlled. Now look how much Rome controlled. Everybody talks about Rome. Rome knocked them out and took them out and beat them up. But Rome owned hardly nothing. They barely owned Jerusalem. They marched. They were going to war to go take Babylon and do the thing they were going to do. But the general fell down, crossing the river. He says, I'm not doing this. Let's go. He got his troops and he headed up. Now they control the west, up in Rome and all that kind of stuff. To think, but just because there's purple material he wore and all, that's talking about Israel. I ride the beast. Now let me tell you too, the beast says he has 7 horns and 10 kings that are not yet. Now, if you add it up, you got Iran, Turkey with the Gog and Magog board, you got Iran, you have Iraq, Afghanistan, you count them all up. Now, there's 10 kings that are not yet. People do not discuss this. Why are they not yet? Because they're given power with the beast for 1 hour to conquer and do against Israel. It's not going to take long to beat them. They're so small. Hezbollah, Hamas, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Taliban. You can name 10 armies that hate and are powerful. Hezbollah is probably one of the most powerful forces besides the Taliban. Taliban has said, let us through. Let's go get Israel and take them out. Taliban said that. Hezbollah, they're like, game on. They're fighting them right now. Hamas, look what they did. Look at these not yet kings are wanting to do against Israel. The war and surrounding. So when you see the army surrounding Jerusalem, you know it's nigh. Do you think Rome has a chance to jump down here? Oh, wait, no. The German army is not that strong. It's NATO and stuff. But they're surrounded by the Muslims. And if the Pope says, now you have to do my religion, okay, you Muslims, no, you can't worship Allah no more. You have to worship God that has a son called Jesus. Is there one Muslim that would do that? No. So you have 2 billion people in the world that will not follow the Pope. Will not. They will not worship him. his name because they say God does not have a son. So if the Muslims control it, are you going to join Allah? I don't think so. You think Buddhists is all of a sudden going to jump on the bandwagon? You think India now is going to join in? It makes more sense that the world, the whole world that he's talking about, is localized in the Middle East, because he talked about the whole world was taxed with Mary and Joseph, but it wasn't the whole world. It was just that Middle East of the Jews and stuff that had to go back. So that wasn't the whole world, but the whole world is the Middle East. So that's where all that goes and all that fits in. And I'm getting kind of long here, but go through the Babylon and see the two stages of Babylon. And the 10 kings goes into 17. That's a long battle with Babylon. And read through that. And he makes a whole lot. Now, there's a new heaven and a new earth that's coming down. If that's a whole another vamp of the earth, I don't think so, but who knows? And then it says this big giant building that is so tall, so wide, so high. Our minds, it's hard for us to think. And then all of a sudden when you realize how it really is going to happen, you're like, oh, that's good work. So the building that's coming out of the sky onto the earth, New Jerusalem, is a building. It appears. So it won't fit on the earth without, what if it's in the earth? What about if he buries it 3/4 of the way into the earth, which it would fit? Just things we don't think of things that would make things work and make it easier. But it's hard for our minds to kind of go that way sometimes. And we can't discount stuff because unless it says 100% factual, we don't know. But I think this is a key, and it's something that's not been heard. Peace is coming to this world. Lion's going to lay with the goat. The wolf's going to lay with the lamb. The animals are going to eat straw like the ox. You're going to be able to play with snakes. The world then is going to flourish. The fire that's coming out of heaven could burn all the weeds up. It's simple. It says it could be that fire that comes through and cleans all the weeds out, and then vegetables start growing in your backyards and other things we can eat, and the trees become fruit and edible, and the healing of the leaves that's in Jerusalem. And it's things that, it says fires burning the whole earth up. There's other ways of looking at things, and maybe that's one of them. And 1/3 of the earth and 1/4 of the earth with famine and stuff has happened, I do believe. We're waiting now on the 5th seal. It's happening before our eyes. Look right now at the Middle East. You will see the armies that are surpassed them, and they're fighting them. This is not just throwing a missile here and a missile there. They are hitting each other hard, and it's bad. And it's almost full scale. They're fighting so much, and Hezbollah is not going to stop, and Israel will not stop until they make them go past that river up north and drive them back. Well, I haven't mentioned a second Exodus. I think this is a very, it's important, but it's not widely known. If you look at Moses' last speech, he speaks of a second Exodus. And it's through the Bible of a second Exodus. There's Monty Judah. He gives a really good description about the second Exodus, of how it's through the whole Bible. It's threaded through the whole Bible. And it comes to Jesus getting his people and taking them back to Israel and repopulating the land and fulfilling the promise. And I believe the 144,000 will be marched back to Armageddon. And they're the ones that are going to come in to Jerusalem with the marriage of and the supper of the Lamb, the big party. And they're going to walk there from point A to point B, and they're going to stay there and wait until Jesus returns. Now, everybody wants to hear about the two witnesses. The witnesses are more than just giving plagues. First off, they have a lot of jobs to do. One job, I believe, is to get the 144,000 together and march them back to Israel and get ready for Jesus. That's one of their missions. Another mission is to take all the Christian churches and get them all on the same page. That's their mission, is to know whether you should be dunked or sprinkled or do the water on your forehead and do the cross symbol on your body and all these other things that all these different Christian religions, which they are Christian if they believe that Jesus Christ died for their sins and he rose the third day. So he'll get back Easter. Should we keep Easter? Should we keep Christmas? Should we keep the holy days? Should we keep Sabbath? New moons. Do you keep the new moons? You say, well, I keep the Sabbath and I keep all this, but do you keep the new moons? Do you keep the other laws that are spoken of if you say you're so good with the Sabbath? So there's many things that the two witnesses have to bring about, and you will know, I will know, that they are from God, and this is the way we should do it. And this is why peace is coming around the world. The two witnesses is going to bring peace with the Holy Spirit that's poured out upon all spirit on all people all over the world. And that's another one of their jobs. And another one of their jobs is to go to the beast and tell them, get out. That's God's land. They're giving a warning. Get out. And that's what they're going to preach, and they're going to show plagues to the beast, on the seat of the beast. And people say, well, it's not going to rain while they're here. It don't say that. It says if they want to, they can do this. If they want to, they can do that. And they can turn blood in a specific area on the beast. They can cause small, like have the world flies for one day, just to show that they have the Spirit of God. And they're trying to tell you what is right, what is wrong, and get this world back in order and get it ready for the Son. And to tell the world the Son is coming. Jesus is coming. He is going to take back Jerusalem because of what's happened. And the world's going to rejoice. And it's going to be a great place. And we're going to turn to the Lord. And it says so. We're going to turn to the Lord. Massive amounts of people. How does all these scriptures fit in? And this is how. It's not just devastation. Middle East, yes. The rest of the world, let's fix it. And that's what's going to happen. We're going to turn away from our wicked ways. The devil at the 1,000 years is up. We'll be locked up. And then there will be our personalities for that 1,000 years. We're going to go into the millennium. The devil's going to be locked up. Then we will not have that part, but our nature will be there. And we would have to fight our nature, but it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful place. I don't know, 50 years ago you could leave your doors unlocked, but now we can't. But it's going to turn back to following the right way and getting ready for the Father to come out of heaven that the Son is preparing the earth for. And he's preparing the earth for the Father. And he's going to turn us. Now, where the rapture comes in, it's at when Jesus returns, and it's on the seventh trump. That's another story on how a rapture will fit in. But he said he's going to raise some dead, and he's going to give them spiritual bodies. How all this fits? It fits. That's why Revelation, you take it, and that is your template. You put everything in Revelation. It tells you where the three wolves are. Then you can say, well, the witnesses die on the second woe, and the earthquakes happen, and that's when they die. Okay, so you know the witnesses die then, and it's real easy. And there's another thing. The 7-year thing is already happened. Jesus had they ceased. The sacrifices ceased in Jesus' day. The Antioch Epiphany happened. They polluted. The temple has been polluted. Them 7 years, that's how the apostles knew that Jesus was coming. And because they said, we have found him. They were looking for him. They knew, and Herod knew that it was when the baby was going to be born too. So the 7 years of Daniel's prophecy, and if you read it, it says it's in succession, it's happened. Revelation, if it was important, would talk about the 7 years. It talks about 3.5 years there, and it says 3.5 years 3 times, if not 4 times, makes mentioned. And to put this together within a 7-year period, don't fit as well as the flow of the witnesses over 3.5 years and the beast. When the witnesses die, the beast is still alive. And how do you fit all this into place? So I just kind of, I'm going to have to look at all this I've said over again and see where I missed out some stuff and I should have put some stuff in. But I just thought I would just sit here and just be more like a lecture and to fill you in on some of the things I think I see. So God bless, and Jesus is coming back, and be ready because he is coming back.